Good afternoon, everyone. This is Carol from Hong Kong Metropolitan University. I'm really very happy today, and I have a chance to do the presentation with all of you. My topic is we imaging Hong Kong's collective memory and virtual nostalgia through Japanese media. In fact, I'm a Japanese studies and media studies researcher, especially working on Japanese media, Japanese animation, and comics. So basically, today I'm really very interested and very excited to have a chance to share this interesting topic with all of you because the theme of the conference today is representing past and visioning future. I think it is this topic is really very appropriate for me to do in this conference. So let me define what is in my research topics. Basically, I have two very important elements in this presentation. One is collective memory. How to define collective memory? Here is a comic. Usually, everybody will think that memory seems to be really very easy a concept to understand. For example, somebody will say that I recall, especially on the terms of recalling. I recall certain kinds of memory or some experience in a past. For example, in this comic here, you can see that he said that I recall when I was a boy in Villa Anna. More than 50 years ago, a dog chased me into the lake. It's really very interesting, right? And his friend or one of his classmates or other will say that, oh yes, I remember that. So it means that they create certain kinds of consensus. Basically, collective memory, according to what I want to mention is in here, is it is a compact of social process in which a society or social group construct and reproduce its relations to the past, especially need to recall certain kinds of memory. And it makes you to understand certain kinds of experience, share certain kind of experience. So it means that the memory is not belong to one single people, but a group. So that's why these kinds of collective memory mainly refer to those cultural practices and social knowledge about the past that influence certain kinds of peoples or certain kinds of culture and transformation extension of social identity. And what is nostalgia? In fact, my topics today will deal with something called virtual nostalgia. As nostalgia defined as a feeling or a passion, and also a slight of sadness when you think about things that happened in the past. For example, 10 years before or several years before, you have certain kind of experience. And then when you see those information, you experience on that and then you remember that, then this is called nostalgia. Why I need to say it is a kind of virtual nostalgia? Because I'm going to deal with media. Media is usually nowadays is not only related to film or cinema, but basically there are so many new media, including there are social media like animation, comic, and magazine or anything or drama. So basically, according to media study definition, media is a kind of means of doing the communication. So that's why I want to say that sometimes the nostalgia is not physically or something which is in which is appear in front of you, but basically it may be virtually appear and it may be a kind of feeling once you see that kind of media representation or an image or a sign, and then you will experience it. And this paper argues due to this kind of misrepresentation of culture and this kind of stereotype image appear virtually in media, just like what I have mentioned, for example, in comic, in animation, or anything, which feeds the times and construct a virtual Hong Kong. It seems to be a Hong Kong, but basically it is not a real Hong Kong, but the Hong Kong in your image. In and based on this kind of so-called collective memory and nostalgia in Japanese media. How I construct this kind of understanding basically is based on a methodology and a theory based on the sign theory. I suppose that most of you have already noticed what is it. In fact, everything is a sign, and we have signifier and signify. For example, in here, you can see that the sign is anything that will have a meaning there. For example, the example here is the tree. The tree, it can be a signifier of a mental concept, which is a real life tree. But at a signifier, it can be a letter, an icon, or song. For example, it can even, when you see a tree, it can also be a signifier of environmental friendly. It is a sign because we unpack the meanings in there in order to tell the story, in order to do the communication with others. So basically, the aims of my research is easy and is also listed in the abstract. This research argues the capacities of the representation in powers in Japan media and inadequately delegates the realities of Hong Kong development. I always think that the media portray a Hong Kong, but that is not a Hong Kong in reality. It tried to emphasize on certain elements which make you to think about that is Hong Kong. It makes some connection and it's also compare and contrast the reality and media representation between the image and symbol portrayed in Japanese media and the reality in Hong Kong. And this research is trying to analyze the culture and social gaps that appear in Japan media and culture with contemporary Hong Kong, with how to extend our knowledge and perception to reduce the cultural conflicts and sexisms and lead to the discussion of the possibility of virtual nostalgia. So, because of the time limit, I cannot cover all the elements in my paper. So basically, I will highlight some important elements and some important concepts I want to work with all of you today. And how to examine Hong Kong food media. Why we need to examine Hong Kong food media. Basically, I suppose that a number of you working in media industry will notice that Hong Kong film industry is one of the most distinctive industries since 1970s amongst the world, and it's produced a lot of famous movie stars like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, etc. In fact, film historian David Bowell even stated that Hong Kong produced world more energetic, imaginative popular cinema. It means that apart from US, the major producer of popular culture and cinema in in early 19, Hong Kong is an other end in Asia. So in here, I have also written down that, in fact, Hong Kong was one the Hollywood on the earth. At its peak around the early 90s, the local movie industry was the first in the world. In terms of per capita production, it is the second largest exporter of film production in second only the US. It means that it only followed the US in film production during the period of time. 80s especially. So we sometimes say that Hong Kong film industry is enjoying the most enjoyable moment and that it is the most popular setting from the late 70s to the 90s. Some people will say that it is the golden period of the Hong Kong film industry also. Then I want to emphasize on the side of Hong Kong food media to Japanese. According to a survey conducted by Harabashi, ranking for everybody, this is the Harabashi, is a kind of ranking in 2022. The most 10 memorable Hong Kong movie to Japanese is listed in here. The first one is 1983 Project A, and the second one, number two one is the 1973. It is the End of the Dragon. You can see the picture, which is in the web. This is the I located in here. You can see from here. And for example, I need to find out my pen in order to do some pointing, so it is much more easy for you to see. For example, this is the second ranking movie, and then the Drunken Master. It is in 1978, which went number three in the ranking, and the Shaolin Soccer. It is a productions of 2001 by Stephen Chow, which is a famous popular movie star in Hong Kong. And the one ranked number five is in a funeral affair. It is a 2002 movie. You can see the highlighter icon in here. And then number six is the new police story 2004. And the other is 1994 Chongqing Express. And the Drunken Master number two is the number eight, where number eight. And the one when number nine is the Real on Real. It is 1984 movie. And finally, ranking number 10 is In the Mood for Love, which is a movie which appeared in 2000. I'm not one in one. Some of you may not notice that who is who, but only wielding on this poster. I suppose that you will find out that it seems to be very interesting that most of the movie is about kung fu. Yes, it's the martial art. Okay, and of course there are some mild. It seems to be some love story, only two love story, but the other is about police. It is interesting that up to 2022, according to the year of production, the more memorable Hong Kong movie is still Beef to 1980 instead of the latest movie. So I want to mention in here is that it is very interesting that if you use Hong Kong movie as a sign, the signify is of course the mental concept. It is the Hong Kong cinema. It's really very popular. It means that there are so many movie, so many cinema production in Hong Kong. But in the other end, if we consider the theory in details, the stick leg fire, the physical form of the stick leg fire seems to something related to Kung Fu, related to police. If you know about that, it is Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, those are Kung Fu master. So this kind of images impacted heavily in the Japanese audience mindset, which means that whenever you notice that somebody is come from Hong Kong, you have a really very strong images. It is kind of stereotype and thinking that he may be or he is something related to Kung Fu or that whenever we talk about a place which is Hong Kong, it seems to be a little bit about the fighting and everything. And this is also can be found in this movie. This is a movie called The Man from Hong Kong. The Man from Hong Kong is a movie which produced in Japan. For the process of stereotype and media representation, audience are socialized and developed a collective memory on defining Hong Kong. What is it? You can see from this movie, this is a Japanese production. It is the man from Hong Kong. It means that in the middle of the poster, you can see that somebody is also doing the martial arts, and the other one is picking a pistol, a gun, in order to shoot somebody. And in the Japanese poster, you can also see that there are really, very so many high-rise buildings, and it seems that there are so many excitement. So, to the Japanese, because of this kind of frequent images, frequent understanding, they will have this kind of memory, collective memory amongst them in order to whenever you heard the terms, you heard the saying about Hong Kong, then Kung Fu, and these kinds of so-called police and excitement will appear because of the influence of the media. And for example, I would like to show you that in the 1981 production, in the 1981 production, it is a Japanese martial art film. It also heavily influenced from the Japanese image on understanding what is Hong Kong. And I try to highlight what is written in here. Some of you know Japanese, of course, you can understand it advanced. But if you are not understanding Japanese, I try to translate this to you. It mentioned that this movie is went to Hong Kong to take the location to film, Especially, it means that all the stars need to travel to Hong Kong to make the film, and they really take their life in risk. It means that they go to the most dangerous place to take this movie, and then you can see from this picture, it seems to be it is a style look like Jackie Chan in some sense. For example, I want to show you again this poster. The middle one is Jackie Chan, Kung Fu Master, and in here you can also compare by the previous poster that it is also something look like him because this is an image of what the Japanese thinking about, and it is you can see that this is a movie from 1981. In fact, because I'm running out of time, I need to become faster. In 2019, unfortunately, in the latest Japanese production, these kinds of kung fu images, these kinds of collective images of people understanding about Hong Kong, especially the Japanese understanding of Hong Kong, is also can found in the movie of quite a number of movie. One of them is a 2019 production. It is a Japanese detective and romance movie directed by Ryo Tanaka. You can see from the middle of the pages, I'm not going to emphasize on the scenes which is in Hong Kong, but basically when you see that somebody wear in yellow, like that, yellow t-shirt, I don't know whether it's sport wearing, it is means that it is falsely. Just like when you see Q Bill, you see that a lady wearing like this, it means that the kung fu is really very cool. This kind of scenes, this kind of media representation, this kind of media portrays is not only appear in one or single movie, but in most of the movie scenes whenever they want to talk about Hong Kong. In here, I would like to show a few more examples. In Ghost in the Shell, in 2017, in the movie in 2017, if, or in the comic in 1995, you can also see that there are so many scenes, which is the real Hong Kong and the scenes in the street in the movie. And then you can see that they are emphasized on the famous Hong Kong travel buildings, travel store, which is Central, Victoria Harbour, and some wet market. And this kind of scenes not only can real in the movie version, it can also see from the comic version. This comic version also projected a very interesting idea, which is like this. You can see that it is the light paces in Hong Kong. In fact, in order to make the conclusion of my presentation, I want to emphasize again that, in fact, most of the understandings and most of the memory when the Japanese think about Hong Kong is come from the Japanese media, especially because of the Japanese Hong Kong film industry is really very popular in Asia during the late 70s to 90s. And this kind of projection is frequently appear in most of the media, no matter in commercial and film. In this presentation today, I only emphasize and pick up the film as an example. And in my paper, I will pick up also the commercial and other media elements in order to support my argument. And this is a picture of the Kowloon Wall City in Hong Kong. It is a very old building, yet based on the collective memory of the Japanese, it is very interesting that they try to rebuild Hong Kong in a Japan-based collective memory. Here is the Kawasaki Kowloon Wall City. It was decided to look like the former Kowloon Wall City in Hong Kong, with the design of you can see from the picture in the night market, and it is the scenes of the wet market, just like what I have shown you in Ghost in the Shell. And there are quite a number of old building, escalator in 80s. And in fact, this is not the only rebuilt rebuilt Hong Kong in Japan. In Odaiba, although this one is closed already, there is a little Hong Kong. It is also reported in NHK before. Based on what the Japanese understandings on the film, they try to reproduce this kind of scenes in order to let them to enjoy that kinds of Hong Kong feeling. And in fact, I want to emphasize is that this kind of media portrayal is interesting, but it is not telling the truth, and it is not showing the reality. Just like what I have mentioned in the sign theory, it basically because of the frequent projections of the kung fu up to now, up to 2022, they still have this kind of strong image impacted in their mindset. Of course, I'm not asking that it is necessary to change, but still with time. And if you ever been to Hong Kong, these kinds of media representation will tell you what is it. And basically, based on the influence of the media, they will create a collective understanding of this kind of memory. And then whenever they think about terms Hong Kong, this kind of collective memory will come out in the mindset. And then we think that, oh, when we go to Hong Kong, we need to take extra attention because people in there seems to be very interested in Kung Fu, and then it seems to be a place which is that we have a lot of night market. And of course, I want to say that that is a special feature in Hong Kong. But still, whenever we understand certain kind of culture, we cannot be emphasizing on one single end of the daily activities of that country or at that society. So, my recommendation is that um, it is a must to have a full picture in order to understand the culture, in order to identify the reality and the media portray. And this is the end of my presentation. If you want to know more about these topics, please go to my paper, and then I will submit my paper very soon. And then I hope to see you guys, and then welcome to the discussion. Okay, thank you very much for taking time to listen to my presentation, and then I hope that you will have certain kind of understanding on how Japanese film industry or media portrays Hong Kong and how they re-image Hong Kong in their media production. Thank you very much, and this is the end of my presentation.